Hello, welcome to the 70H Sobriety Podcast. This is episode 197, and my name is Charlie. And sorry for my dark humor there. So many of our guests are struggling with 70H these days, and that's just the reality of the marketplace out there. But I want to thank you all for hanging with us. It's been 3 years, almost the day that our first podcast went out in 2023. And the only way it's been able to keep going is because of all the volunteers that have helped with the podcast, all of our co-hosts. So the current ones are Jacob, Lily, Lauren, Nolan, Rosa, Jess, Natalie. I'm very, very grateful for all their support. If you haven't been able to tell between the lines, I've ran out a little bit of steam lately keeping this going. And I know it's helping people. We see the stats, about 1,000 people listen to every episode that gets uploaded on Sundays. And then about 1,000 other people listen to the back catalog. So we all want to keep our streak of weekly quitting stories available to people. When we first started the podcast, we used to have a segment called Kratom in the Headlines. And if you've been paying attention to the news at all, there's been all sorts of crazy news stories and developments in the world of Kratom, including several states passing bans, possibly in Kansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And that leads us to this opening that I have this week. I'm going to replay a segment from another podcast called Recovery in the Middle Ages. And they cover Kratom now and then, but they have this funny talk about debating people online about Kratom. And anybody that's ever tried to do a discussion on the topic on social media, it spirals into a nightmare and a very repetitive one at that. So after I play this 6 or 7 minute discussion with Mike and Nat, then I'll have this interview with Georgia. And in coming weeks and coming months, we're hopefully going to maybe have some episodes coming out on Wednesdays, and we're going to try to get re-energized and excited about the podcast again. So thanks for sticking with us, and keep it Kratom free.
So anyway, News 12, which is our local news, posted a story on Facebook that says it's product ban. A vote on the proposed Suffolk County ban on Kratom was delayed Tuesday as lawmakers continue weighing whether to halt sales of the so-called herb.
Oh, in Suffolk? They did it in Nassau.
They did it in Nassau. So being a good, podcast partner and friend, I go on there and I post, that stuff is poison. People get addicted to it just as if it's an opioid. And boy, was that a contentious thing to say, apparently.
Yeah.
The pro-Kratom people came out of the woodwork to attack me.
How dare you?
It's like, this guy, Nick, was like, it's not even close. And if you had a choice, would you rather someone shoot puddle water dope, be stuck on methadone or Suboxone for life?
Why is that the alternative? It's either that or puddle water dope.
Exactly. And I said, in order to, and then he goes on, and on and on, but,
no, not extreme here.
But I was like, Nick, which is his name, Nick, if you're talking about leaf Kratom, then maybe I could see an argument for keeping it legal. Although I know plenty of ex-opioid addicts who became addicted to leaf Kratom as well. But unfortunately, vendors and smoke shops sell concentrations and derivatives like 70H and Feel Free, which are highly addictive. The problem is there's no regulation in the space, so people are unwittingly getting addicted to Kratom products that are sold as health tonics and athletic recovery drinks. Doesn't that sound like a rational response?
Very rational. I tend to agree with that.
One of my friends in recovery started drinking Feel Free, first 1 a day and then 4 or 5.
You used my whole story for this?
But they don't know who you are.
Link to the episode.
They don't know who I am.
Should link to the episode.
And then he went on vacation to a place where there was no Kratom and had a seizure and was basically dope sick for days. So I embellished.
Well, it's not totally.
So I said, I'm all for harm reduction, but you need to set some standards for these products because the current free-for-all is causing a lot of harm in the community. Right?
Right.
Good response. And then Nick came back and sort of half-assed apologized and agreed with me. I am talking about Leaf and I agree. Comment. But then I get this, and I'm not going to read all these comments because they're all like a little unhinged, but
those are the good ones, though.
You might get thrown for a loop if you look into the fitness industry and see Kratom drinks being marketed as pre-workout the same way I use Kratom. In that time, I've won a gold medal in powerlifting, bought a home, started a successful business, and it's kept me out of the bars.
You bought a home with it? That's amazing. That's the most amazing thing I've heard about Kratom.
Traded Kratom for a home.
What the hell? How come that didn't happen to me?
I think what he means is even while flying high on Kratom, he has managed to do all of these successful things.
Okay.
He is a high-functioning Kratom person.
Very high.
So I said, Nick, I'm glad it worked for you. I have seen derivatives cause problems and on and on.
Read that litany of successes he's had because he does Kratom.
In that time,
yeah,
I have won a gold medal in powerlifting.
Wow. I mean, that's something to lead with.
Bought a home, started a successful business, and kept me out of the bars.
The gold medal, though, that gets me. I can't.
Do you wish you had won a gold medal in powerlifting while you were taking Kratom?
I'm going to write a letter. I'm going to complain. I've won a gold medal.
Nick. So, doing my piece to spread podcast love, I said, if you're interested in exploring the possible downsides of these derivatives, my friend Charlie has a podcast that discusses it from different angles.
Look at that.
So I dropped the link to kratomsobriety.com.
I hope Charlie drops a link to our podcast once in a while.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie.
And there's a few other comments, but then my favorite is from Gina, what does that mean on TikTok? Ready for this one?
Man.
Kratom is a plant that helps people. I have been consuming Kratom from a reputable vendor for almost a decade now. I broke both tibias, fibulas, and shattered both ankles in 2015.
And then won a gold medal?
Once I started walking and working on my feet again, the pain was bad. I found Kratom and have taken it every day since. I'm in good health. I'm a productive member of society. I make 6 figures a year. I am not in pain. I am happy.
Is this all caps?
I am happy.
I am happy. God damn it.
Does that make me an addict? Someone who is I would just say respectfully to Gina from TikTok.
You don't even have a gold medal, Gina.
Right. I would say, Gina, if you were sitting here telling me with such vehemence how Kratom is not addictive because you take it every fucking day for 12 years.
Damn it.
Is not the flex that you think it is, Gina. It's not addictive. I've been taking it for a decade and a half.
I can't stop taking it for a decade, damn it.
What I read in that is someone that's very, very concerned that their Kratom supply is about to be interrupted.
Yes.
And you know what? Great. If it helps you with chronic pain and you've been able to buy your... Did she also say that she bought a house? No, she makes 6 figures a year.
But didn't buy a house? I'm concerned.
Please explain to me how you know more about it than someone who has been consuming it for a decade.
Damn it. Consuming.
If this plant was banned, the quality of my life would be severely affected. Yes, withdrawal will do that to you.
Yes.
And then she said something I agree with. I don't ever see anyone trying to ban alcohol. Alcohol is actually terribly addictive, so much so that you could die from the withdrawal. But yeah, tell me more about this healing plant. Eye roll emoji.
Well,
so this is what I do for shits and giggles, right? I argue with nuts on the internet about Kratom.
But Gina, where is your gold medal in powerlifting? That's what I want to know.
She keeps it in her big house with her 6-figure income.
Well, riddle me this, Batman. What would happen if one day they've decided to ban coffee and coffee products?
I mean,
what kind of posts would you see? I've been drinking it 4 times a day for 40 years. How could dare you say that this is wrecking my blood pressure, quality of life, and relationship with my family? I have a gold medal in powerlifting. Right? If you banned coffee, you'd have very similar...
Well, yeah, let me think about that for a minute.
Would you rather them, take puddle water heroin shots than have an espresso? Is that what you want?
I would have to drink dirty tea from India.
Black tea?
Black tea?
What am I, the Queen of England?
Is that what you want for me? To be drinking tea?
Yeah.
For having 5-hour energy shots?
I thought we, got over this with the Boston Tea Party.
It's ridiculous.
Damn it.
So, I don't know. Some people get out their energy by exercising. Some people get out their energy by fighting with people on the internet. I do both.
And some people compete for a gold medal in powerlifting.
Old Nick. I hope he, is successful.
Can we get Nick on the show? Can you reach out to this Nick? I want to know more about his amazing life. It sounds awesome.
Once
he bought a house.
I mean, all props to Nick. I'm sure he's doing an awesome job with everything.
I just like to say this, Nick. I love you.
Thanks for the content.
You've given me joy.
Welcome to the Creative Sobriety Podcast. My name is Charlie, and this week we have a guest whose name is Georgia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I live in LA. I've lived here for 20 years. I did grow up in Boston, but Cali is where I belong. I'm a writer. I'm actually like a screenwriter. I'm not like famous or anything, but I do okay. My third movie, Deadly Vows, just released in November. It's a true crime thriller that just was trending at number 9 on Amazon. Things are going pretty well in that department. For a day job, I'm a stagehand, which means I do audio, video, lighting, set, and staging for like different concerts and live events. And I guess my other big thing is like I'm a professional friend. I always joke about that because I have so many awesome friends and I am a good friend. And I guess those are like the things I would guess that identify me. I'm a writer, I'm a stagehand, and I'm a friend.
What kinds of things do you do to bring yourself joy or to decompress?
So I am a huge runner. I love running. I love live music, nature, journaling, and then back to this friends thing. I really like just like hanging out, having a little food, and just like hanging out with my homegirls.
So what is your Kratom quit date?
My quit date is January 7th, but I did have one day that I relapsed. I have really bad ADHD and I lose everything. And I had left my Suboxone in a hotel. And because of like, it's a controlled substance, my insurance, I couldn't get it for 4 days. And on night 3, I had to work overnight and I'm like sweating. And I was just like, screw this. And it is banned in LA, but nobody listens to the band. So I got off the bus and I bought some 7 and I took it and I didn't feel much. I have all Suboxone in my system, but I wasn't in withdrawal. And then the next morning I picked up the Suboxone. The next afternoon I picked up the Suboxone. Which day is like, does that mean that it doesn't matter because I'm not doing Kratom or 7 right now. So I guess that's what's the most important.
Yeah, that's understandable. Those who use medicated assisted treatment, that is some of the nightmare scenarios is running out while you're traveling or when your doctor or pharmacy messes up the prescription. So it's not totally unusual to have that situation that you described. So I wouldn't beat yourself up about it too much. So minus that, how many months has it been?
It's been like almost 4, 3.5.
Great.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
Yes, let's get into that. Why don't we go all the way back to when you first started Kratom?
I was really straddling the line between someone who was genuinely committed to never drinking ever because of a serious alcohol addiction that we can talk about a little later. And this like really fun, free-spirited, hippie writer, LA entertainment girl. And I didn't seem to have any issues with I would take Molly sometimes. I would take mushrooms sometimes. I would smoke weed sometimes. Smoke weed a lot of times. And it never really brought anything but like good into my life. Because of that, I had this dual thing going on. I think it took a long time before I could even integrate anything. But in my mind, if it was liquor, it was never. If it were other drugs, it was like, whatever. And I think because of that, like, I think if you don't drink, like, especially back in the day, like, I'm 51. So, like, back in the day, if you, like, don't drink, you're only out, honestly. So, because of that, like, the few people that did, like, dabble into other things, like, you get tight. One of those friends is my friend Ashley, and she lives in my hometown at the time of Worcester, Massachusetts. We were genuinely friends, but that is a kind of thing. We would hang out and go to the paraphernalia shop when I was there and like smoke. So, yeah, in 2017, my dad died. And that was 6 months after my mom went into a nursing home. And that wasn't my choice, it was my brother's choice. We were really at odds. I will say this, though, and it's relevant for later. This nursing home turned out to be until COVID, it turned out to be the best thing for my mom because she wasn't trapped there. She could go out to the art museum, she could go do what she wanted. But when she was at home or whatever, she wasn't going to fall and she didn't have to cook. But it was awful still. So my dad died and I was there for the funeral and to take care of my mom and all of this. And it was really a mixed bag because my dad had almost conveniently died. Seriously, it was right when his quality of life was about to dip. It was all right, now you need to go into the nursing home. And he did not want to do that. And he fell down the stairs and he died. And so in a way, I was at peace also. And then also to complicate it, like I said, I'm a screenwriter. And at the time that this happened, my screenwriters are always just trying to get their movies made. That's all we want to do. And it's so hard. And at this point, I had gotten one. And my friend and I, we were really actively trying to raise money for the second one. We were right in the middle of that when my dad died and I inherited $250,000, which is a ton of money. And I spent $100,000 of that on this movie, which I definitely don't regret. But so I'm in the middle of all this, right? And Ashley says, it was a few days after the funeral, she says, hey, there's this stuff in the green zone right now called kratom. And it's so awesome. It's just a plant, but it feels like an opiate. And you better go get some soon because it's going to be banned soon. This was 2017. So it was maybe going to get banned. So I was all right, let's try it. And yeah, so I went to the green zone and I asked the guy, what's the best way to do it? And he gave me 2 shots of a certain brand, but it was another brand. And so then we went back to my friend's house and we're hanging out with her parents and we're just in the living room and it hit me. And I was oh my God. I felt just I felt at peace about my dad. I felt at peace about all the other major issues that I was having in my life. I felt confident. And I was just wow, this is going to be another one of those drugs that I want to do it for a minute. That was my intention. So then I got back to LA where unlike there being one shop, there were an endless amount of shops. As soon as I got back, and again, now my brother did something. So we immediately had a little bit of money. So I don't have to work. So I had a lot to process. So I had the money. So it was a horrible combination. So I would ride my skateboard to the kratom store and I would get my 2 shots and I would ride back. Fortunately, one day 2 didn't work and I tried 3 and I got so sick. I got sick for 3 days. And I assumed that Zofran would help, but it took a few days to get to my doctor and it did. And I was I will never, ever take this again. Ever. And in between that and 2022 that we'll get to, basically, about 4 months later, I had an operation, but before and after the operation, I was in a shit ton of pain. And I asked the doctor for opiates. And of course, they look at you like you're just an addict, even if you're genuinely in pain. And I thought, kratom. So I did it for the pain for a little bit in 2018 and was wow, this was really working for me. But the same literal thing would happen. I would take 2, then I would suddenly be I'm sure this time I can take 3. And I would get really sick. So this happened about 4 or 5 times within the course of 2017 to 2022. So I guess the rest will come. But that's where I was at. But what's ridiculous is rather than thinking to myself, wow, you have to go to the hospital when this happens, I'm still in this, you know what I'm going to do for this? I remember my friend's wedding. It was a really uncomfortable situation. I'm going to take this kratom and this time I'll feel great. And I do. And then every time I'd get sick. Each time it was just a rinse, rave, repeat thing until 2022.
During that 5-year span of time, did you ever get to the point where you were doing it daily Or did it always just be these short-term incidents where you'd take too much and then say, I'm never going to do that again?
So usually it would take either it would be right away or it would be like maybe I would take 2 and then the next day I'd take 2 and then the next day I'd take 2 and I'd get sick.
Okay.
So like it never really got to be daily or hourly at that point at all.
And in your initial email to us, you mentioned you had a history with alcohol and Xanax. You want to talk about that and how that influenced your kratom use?
100%. 100%. So all right. So I got into liquor so I'm 51. I got into liquor at 24, mainly to help me sleep. I had insomnia. It was the one drug I didn't like because it made me tired. So it never occurred. And because I said I didn't have to struggle with the other drugs, it was almost like the last one I tried, well, before kratom. So it didn't occur to me that there would be an issue. So I started using it to help me sleep. And wouldn't you know it, I am a raging alcoholic. And I had this crazy tolerance. And by 26, my whole life had completely unraveled. I was at rock bottom, my first rock bottom. I was living with my parents. I went from being in Austin with a baller job and a great boyfriend and like at that time, like a play that I had written was going to happen and to like my parents' house in Worcester, Massachusetts in the winter with nothing and just a bunch of regret. I was like, I have to figure out how to stop drinking. Back then, like there really wasn't much, Charlie. There wasn't the Kratom Sobriety podcast. There wasn't like Andrew Huberman talking about dopamine. There was basically AA or bust. And it was almost like either you were in AA or you like weren't really trying. And if you're someone like me who doesn't like AA for a reason that just does really triggering for me, then there was not much else. And the attitude at the time was, what's wrong with you? Fix this. And that was certainly my parents' attitude. And I think I was just so focused on how to get my film career back that I didn't really do any work on this. But I'm a fighter. And I think as my career did come back and I got back to LA, I went from doing it like horribly to having these relapses. And honestly, from about 2001, kratom or no kratom, to 2020, okay, I would have everything was fine. I'm normal Georgia. And then I would have these like awful relapses. And maybe they would happen like, you didn't know, like maybe they would happen like twice or 3 times a year, but then maybe they would happen once a month for a little bit, but then maybe they wouldn't happen for a year. Through all of this time, that was something I was struggling with. I could never quite quit drinking, but I would get close enough that I could function. But then there was always some castle that would come knocking down when I relapsed. I have the triad disorder, which means I have Tourette's and OCD and ADHD. So medication and mental health is a big part of my journey. At 33, my OCD became uncontrollable. Since then to now, I take Zoloft and it basically controls it. And I've had therapy and a lot. But at that time, Xanax saved my life. Like, I don't know what I would have done. I will never forget going into the emergency room with my dad being like, if this doesn't work, I'm going to kill myself, and coming out with no OCD thoughts. And the same thing happened again when I was 42. I had a hysterectomy and it made my Tourette's go out of control. And the only thing that calmed it down was Xanax. And now, ever since I've changed my hormones and my estrogen, I don't obviously need to do that anymore. So this was the issue with Xanax. It was like, honestly, sometimes I genuinely, at least felt like I genuinely needed it. But it turned on me. And what went from being something that I would, like if I had a bottle of Xanax and I needed a Xanax, I would take one. Kratom comes into this because in 2020, I had a major relapse. It was really bad. And I went to rehab for the first time. And when I came out, I went back to Massachusetts. By this time, my mom was like in the nursing home, but it was COVID. So she couldn't go out and she was declining. And I knew that I didn't have much time left. So I moved back to Boston as soon as I got out of rehab to be with her. And obviously it was a really hard time, but I didn't want to drink. So what I would do is every time I was like really tempted, I would have a shot of kratom. And it just was very harm reduction at that point. But then in 2022, what happened was my mom died and I lost my shit. And there was so much pain. And then I moved back to LA. It's like circles repeat. It wasn't that much money, but I inherited like $65,000. And that money, unlike my dad's, a lot of it went to kratom. Not honestly, a lot. Suddenly there was just this hole. And then I got back to LA, and the guy that I thought was getting back together with, because we were like back to living together, was like, "What are you talking about? I thought we were just friends." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm in love with you." And so I just definitely started doing it like every day. And that was my MO until July of 2023, when I was completely out of money. And not just from the money I'd wasted on this, but from the money I'd wasted. And I guess this kind of goes into what was your lifestyle, and like snapping on people because I was in withdrawal. Or let's say because at that time for work, I wasn't really a stagehand yet. I was mainly just making money as a writer as my inheritance was like shrinking and shrinking. So I feel like I lost some clients because of my temper, which I don't normally have. You don't think about this until later, but it's like, all right, I'm going to spend $40 on kratom. Well, now I want to enter this writing contest. I don't have that $40. That was like, it was at that point where I was like, okay, now I don't have money to burn. And I was really upset about it. And I was like, I got to stop.
So have you been able to achieve some sobriety from alcohol and Xanax?
Yeah. So my bouts of that, by the way, as I've gotten older, have gone down and down. I hadn't had a relapse on alcohol, ironically, until the first time I tried to quit. And with Xanax, I hadn't had a problem until the second time. This time I tried to quit 7-OH. So that's honestly what's up.
And I've heard that before. There's been other guests when they tried to quit kratom, they returned to their past drugs of abuse because of the symptoms of withdrawal and the cravings and things. So why don't you fast forward a little bit?
So I said I have to quit. I couldn't. I was in this back and forth of every 2 or 3 days, I would take more kratom shots. And that just kept going and going until December of 2023. And just the same cycle. By now, I was a stagehand. I was making money, but I was running out and still in the same cycle. That's when I finally found the Reddit support group. It was the first time I'd ever communicated with people also hooked on this. And it was honestly, at first, it was all I needed to quit. And I honestly, since then, I've never taken another kratom shot. But right before I quit all of this, the last thing that happened was like, you're in these support groups and everyone's talking about 7. And of course, I've got I better not try that. And then, I got to try that at least once, but surely it'll just be once. So, right. But that actually fueled me to quit too at first, because I tried it on a Monday and I swear the next thing I know was the next Monday. And I hadn't stopped. And I kept saying, I'll stop when it's been a week. And then all of a sudden I was like, it's been a week. So I stopped everything. And that community was really important and really helpful. But I feel like that community is more helpful first when you stop. If you need advice and stuff, like, but I also felt like a lot of it didn't have to do with me, because there was a lot more stuff about like withdrawals and shakes. This wasn't my story because of the way I was doing it. So I felt like basically I stopped going. And then what happened was I fell off my skateboard and I was in a lot of pain and I did not need to do it. I could have taken Tylenol, I'm sure, but it was an excuse. I was like, oh, clearly. So that was July. Come August, I was moving out of my place. My roommate was an ass and I was moving into a new place. And I had from then till just to find a permanent place. So I moved into Marks in September. The journaling to the recovery group, the one thing I'm not going to do is 7. And it was the most ridiculous thing. I still can't believe it. Every single day, every single, except maybe one or two, including the time with the Xanax, every single day I would say, I am quitting. And almost maybe one or two times I wouldn't, but pretty much every single night, there was always some excuse why the next day was better. And I fell for it every time. Why don't you quit on a Monday? Because that's a fresh start. Why don't you quit actually tomorrow? Because you don't have that paper. Why don't you quit? But this didn't get apps, but because as a stagehand, it was season and I was making some money. I wasn't saving it though. And I think I was getting more and more anxious about all that. And so trying to push it away with more and more 7, by now I was taking like 300 milligrams a day. I'm spending like $30 a day on Kratom. And I'm so angry at myself, but I can't stop. And so then season ends, and now first it's Christmas, and I say Christmas for sure. Then it's New Year's, and I think this is where the first time I said I can't quit. Because it was New Year's. And to me, I've quit. New Year's is a big time. It's like your life depends on how much money you have right now, or you could literally be homeless. And what are you doing? And I couldn't quit. And I don't know if it was like God through the course of someone in my WhatsApp group, but this one woman, and because by now I had gone to this WhatsApp group and I was one foot in, one foot out, but I was listening and I was trying. And this one girl said, look, you cannot stop relapsing. You can't do this. I really want you to try Matt. And I didn't know anything about how to try Matt, but she walked me through the whole experience. And I've been on Matt ever since. It's so weird. It's like this 7-0 is just like a bad dream. And I'm like, wait.
And so since you started on the Suboxone, have you been able to abstain from everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody with your long history of drugs and alcohol and the repeated relapses, I think it really makes sense for you to just stabilize your life. So the chaos of all your finances, spending all your money on Kratom and 7-OH, that probably was immediately removed, right?
So I didn't have enough money to do like a first and a deposit. So I found a place that rented by the week, and I did have enough for that, but it was like $400 a week. So I stopped doing Kratom, but my rent went from $1,000 to $1,600. So although there was still a little benefit, it wasn't as good as when those 12 weeks ended 2 days ago. The place I was living opened up again. So I've moved back in here. So now my rent is back to $1,000 and I'm not doing it. And I can stay here until November, but this time do it right and save up. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it seemed like in the past, the 3-month mark was a big trigger for you. And it looks like you might have just recently passed the 3-month mark. You do have the extra tool of the medicated assisted treatment this time, but what kinds of things are you doing to get past the 3-month mark this time?
Okay, I really like my WhatsApp group now. Because the thing I realize is just because you struggle with the same substance doesn't mean that you're aligned, doesn't mean that person can handle conflict, doesn't mean that person isn't bringing their own crap to the table. So it's not always as people make it seem like, oh, you guys are all addicted. Clearly, you'll be best friends. And it isn't like that. So I didn't find community because I did try some other AAs and smart recoveries, but then this one WhatsApp group just really clicked with me. And it meant a lot to me that someone inside literally held my hand. She was on video chat with me when I took the first Suboxone. It was like that. And so every day I chat with these people. We don't even necessarily chat about, if someone wants to, we'll chat about 7 or feel free. I'm not saying we don't, but we chat about anything. And there's just this, we all live with each other and we all say, I wouldn't want to relapse because then I have to tell you. And then what I like about this group too is, okay, one person relapsed who's actually a moderator. One thing I did not like about AA is I felt like if you didn't make the coffee on time, someone would be mad at you. But if you relapse, that was the one thing that you could do that everyone was like, oh, and I thought that was dumb. And in this group, you're not shamed, but you're not coddled. Honestly, there's a little bit of, we love you, but get it together. How can we support together? That's been my main thing. And then honestly, okay, so for me, it's like a pie. There's my mental health, there's my financial health, there's my social health, there's my spiritual health, there's my all this stuff. And there's my addiction exact. So this whole time, way before the Suboxone, I've been working on that other stuff. Like I've been doing therapy. I've been doing I did a lot of, there were certain things that I did, I think the bad habits that were against like my integrity, and I quit. I started budget. So now, and I did get from a point where like, I wasn't really supporting myself at the beginning of this journey. And now I'm supporting myself at the end of this journey. And even when I was wasting it, I was supporting myself. So for me, financial health is like a huge part of it. For my other mental health disorders, I could do better. Like right now, I'm just taking the medications, but I've done so many like self-help and Andrew Huberman and Louise Hay, and I've really worked on my mindset. In a way, I think Suboxone was like the final piece of a puzzle like I'd already been like really drawing for a long time.
The WhatsApp group, is this the Feel Free 70H group?
Yeah.
It's a small world. I helped start that like about 2 years ago. Yeah, I'm glad it's still going.
It's going, and it literally is like, it took me on a path to absolute destruction to like, I'm doing really all right now.
So you mentioned your brain starting to re-regulate.
Yeah.
What do you notice?
So I don't think I realized until I stopped that from the moment it was like, either I'm doing it every day or I'm doing it every 4 days, like how much time was spent either in withdrawal, just physically, but I didn't know that's what it was. It was always like, oh, this pain, this depression, this anxiety. And then the guilt that I was like always drowning in from doing it was awful. And it just triggered a lot of anxiety issues. But I didn't understand that they were withdrawal until I started taking Suboxone and was like, I'm not having flashbacks about being homeless anymore. I'm not assuming everybody hates me. I'm not having these issues. And I was like, wow, not that everything's like hunky dory, but I realized how much of that was caused simply just by 7. And the feeling of getting a paycheck and being able to even now be like, all right, I need new boots for work. I'm going to order them without it being this whole thing. But chemically, I feel it. I felt like I don't need as much coffee. I don't need as much weed. I feel myself able to focus more. I'm able to go running without having to drink coffee and motivate. And for a while, like with the kratom, it got off. I really feel a lot less anxious and a lot less guilty. And I guess those are the big things. Without I was always running from the bad memories, but now because I'm not running from them, also remembering all these happy things.
And how has your creative life been impacted? First, through your addiction, the different forms of kratom. It sounds like you went through both extracts and then the 70H, and then now being off all that. How has your creative life been impacted?
Okay. So with the kratom shots, I do have to admit, they did put me in a zone. They put me in a zone. And at the time, I was adapting this guy's sci-fi book. And at the height of it, I was adapting this guy's sci-fi book into a series. And it took a lot of brain power, right? And I would take the kratom and I would just go. But then I'd be so snappy with him that I lost the job anyway. And the next job I picked up, the same thing. Like the writing wasn't the problem, but I was so difficult. And one of the reasons I was so difficult was money. And one of the reasons I had no money was because I was wasting it on kratom that I was using to help me write. Then writing on 7, I didn't write. Or I did write if I had to. Like right now, I'm trying to raise money for this like Christmas dog movie that I wrote with my partner. And there were definitely times when because sometimes my partner and I would fight, not my like romantic partner, my business partner. There were times when I would take 7 thinking, this is really going to help me write. And it wouldn't. It got dangerous. There were even a few times that I was out with a friend and I nodded out. Like it got real. So I would say I wasn't. Now I feel like I'm back to where I was before any of this started, which is like sometimes I'm really creative. Sometimes I'm not. But ultimately, the only difference is, so I'm writing a screenplay based on, I think, also what I mentioned with like my mom, my dad, called My Imaginary Father. And my character was going to be a liquor addict, but I've now made her a kratom addict in the script.
Be interesting if it gets to the screen. I don't know if there's been any kratom use has been portrayed on any screen yet.
I know. That's one of the reasons I want to do it.
I know there's one story out there that somebody did a novel that the main character in it was addicted to kratom. So
For real? What's it called?
I'll have to look it up and put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
And I haven't read it yet. So do you have any advice for somebody who wants to quit kratom? Because that's the main purpose of our podcast, is to try to help people support getting off all forms of kratom. So do you have any advice?
Yeah, I do. I would say there's so many tools, right? And everybody's recovery really seems to be their own thing. Examine all the tools out there, everything from medicated assisted treatment to church, like whatever is happening. And if one thing doesn't work, try something else and realize that it might be a situation like mine where like it just all the pieces had to come together, but first you have to do the pieces. So if you're doing a bunch of self-help, but like you're still doing 7OH, like you're still doing the self-help and it's still the part of your body that wants to quit. So I think if you just continue to work on it, like you'll get there.
At the end of the podcast, towards the end, we like to ask lighter questions. So do you have any travel plans coming up that you're looking forward to?
So one of the things I'm really happy to be saving up money for is, so after my mom died, my brother and I finally made up. But soon after that, he moved to Cambodia, where he has since gotten married and had a child. So I have a 1-year-old niece who's got my parents' gene. Oh, and sidebar, I loved my parents. I loved them. So the idea that there's some genetic material there, I want to go see my niece and I want to go see my brother because now we have this great relationships. Cambodia's next.
Traveling without having to worry about this stuff will be a lot easier for sure.
Definitely.
So if just looking up the months ahead, let's say you experience a setback, you get another injury where you experience pain and I'm sorry that you lost both of your parents in recent years, but you had another setback. What would you rely on to get through it without using a kratom?
So I guess the thing I like about Suboxone, and I don't plan to be on Suboxone forever, but I'd like to go through a 2 years without relapsing on anything. But I don't know how to answer that because like Suboxone, I don't crave it at all.
It's doing its job.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't know. I wish I could have a more definitive answer. I would definitely, if I was suddenly craving it, I guess I would start with my recovery group, obviously. And then I guess the next step would be to transfer all my money like into a friend's account. That's a trick that's obviously that's a fail-safe trick that I've done before. But the other thing is now I'm on Suboxone. So what's the point of I'm not going to feel it if I relapse. So that's the other thing. I don't think that because I already know it won't make me feel better. I just don't think it's like on the table anymore. But what is on the table? I'm still figuring it out. I have a long way to go, Charlie.
I can tell that you've come a long way and you're making a lot of progress.
Thanks.
How did you find out about our podcast?
Oh, you interviewed this girl, Lauren, on the podcast, and she's in that WhatsApp group. And she said, hey, I was interviewed on the Kratom Sobriety podcast once. Here was my episode. So I listened to her episode. And then all right, here's the thing about your podcast. The amount of guilt I carry went from 90% to 10% because I don't know if it's y'all's personality or the people you pick on the show, but I feel like I'm hearing a lot of like professional, educated, kind-hearted, compassionate, all these people with all these great things, admirable jobs, whatever, like doing the same fucked up shit that I did and I felt so guilty about for so long because I did not know anybody else that did it. It's been instrumental for me in a world where nobody else in my life has anything but, I would say, shame and a little understanding to say about this. It's so nice to just hear other people have done this. It's been fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, and you're not alone. People from all walks of life, professionals, people that are good fathers and mothers that are highly responsible, have had trouble with this stuff.
Yeah, like that was one thing about, I was into the candy sevens, okay? They look so like innocent and flavorful, and I'm thinking they're getting sold in all these places, which means all these people are doing them, which means it can't be too bad, because if all these people are doing them, it's not like you're meeting somebody in some dark alley. So that definitely makes a huge difference. And they're banned in LA, but every single store has them anyway.
And we appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sure it will reach people that needed to hear it.